for you to speak to at a later date on this.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
I'll just ask about the funding for temporary projects for the pandemic from the Active Travel Fund. Is there a requirement for local authorities to deliver an evaluation study on those projects before they can continue?
This is all now historic, but during the height of the pandemic, I think May 2020 time, if I remember correctly, we provided emergency funding. Remember, this is a time where knowledge of coronavirus and distances, social distances required, therefore the size of a pavement and all those things were still largely unknowns, and authorities put in schemes. Now, afterwards, we did assess them and write back to authorities where those schemes were. Many of them were very good. Some were bad, and those were very widely advertised. And where they were bad, frankly, we went back to those authorities and said to them, "You will not be eligible for more money."
What about when they were good? Let me give you an example. So I went to visit a local school last Friday. They had been able to close off a very dangerous lane, which no one really needed to go down, apart from parents dropping their children off. That got closed off. Now that encourages more walking. Also, it means that those 5-year-olds have only never known that road as a walking road. But the local authority have reversed it because they say they've got to deliver an evaluation study, despite the fact that all the parents and the school think it's superb. And it's now even more dangerous because those youngsters are never used to seeing traffic on there.
Yeah.
What can we... we hear about this all the time. What can we go back to our local authorities? They always say it's because the Department for Transport require us.
Yeah, well, if they're blaming us, I'd certainly like to know about it. I mean, perhaps on that specific case or any others the committee have, we'd love to hear more about it, because I was going on to say, where this has been done well, we have rewarded those authorities. Where it's been done badly, we've actually withheld further funding from authorities who don't quite get it. Some of this, as I mentioned before, in the previous answers, to do with the lack of capability within local authorities, because they've just not thought about active travel in this way before, which is why we've been making funds and expertise, and Active Travel England will do more of this available to them. But I mean, I'd love to hear about your specific case.
I'll speak more to you in the department, but there's a wider issue, and I'm sure every single member gets this, which is our local transport authority will say, well, we'd like to make things safer, but the Department for Transport Regulations say it has to be absolutely safe or it can't be done. Right. I've spoken to your officials, and I don't believe that is the case. No. Will you consider giving guidance to local transport authorities to say, this is the latitude you have, this is the discretion, stop blaming us when actually you could do more?
Look, I certainly will. I mean, it frustrates me as much as anyone to hear that that's the sort of dynamic. Evaluation is a good thing, isn't it? You would expect when new things are done that, the local authority would take responsibility for deciding whether that's had a positive or negative effect and act accordingly. I think the idea that you just then blame it on a sort of supposed bureaucratic requirement of the department is entirely wrong. So I'm very keen to look into that, actually, because it's clearly not the relationship we want to build up with local authorities, and it's not how we want them to behave. And your example sounds particularly egregious. So.
And I'd like to credit your officials because they helped me bust through a previous example, but I've now got this one. Anyways, apologies. I hope that's relevant to all members as well. Gavin, did you want to come on active travel as well?
Yeah, just